Hello everyone and welcome to Football Manager 2022 and the first experiment of the latest game, where today we are going to take a look at what would happen if a non-league team had £1 billion in their bank account. This is a fairly familiar annual experiment that I do every time the in-game editor gets released, and today we're going to do it with Maidstone Utd, or the Stones as they're known to their fans. You can see they're down in the Vanarama National League South. They've got a capacity of 4,200 in their stadium, 1,100 regular season ticket holders coming along to watch them try and get into the Football League. Obviously a couple of promotions away from their place in the Football League, but they are expected to finish in 5th place, so that's a pretty good place to start for this experiment. Got a few names in there that you might remember. George Kobe, I think he's been around for a little while. I definitely remember his time at Wolves there. More recently at Leyton Orient and Aldershot, but he could be a big player for them up front. He's a decent striker, despite getting on into the 30s now. Gavin Hoyt as well, I seem to remember, was a bit further up. Yeah, he was an Arsenal, I'm going to say wonder kid, I'm pretty sure, back in the early Football Managers. Back in the early 2000s, pretty sure he was a wonder kid. So they've got some decent players on their books already. You can also see with their facilities beyond that 4,200 seater stadium, which is actually pretty new, the Gallagher Stadium there, so hopefully they've got room to expand it. They do also have some good or below average training facilities, but basic youth facilities as well. We'll be looking to get those upgraded with a bit of spending over time. It looks like they train at their stadium as well, so who knows, maybe a proper training centre in the future for them. But what we have done with Maidstone Utd, if we have a look in their details here, number one, I've boosted their reputation a little bit. Now the basis for that is that if you're a club with just under £1 billion available to you, let's pretend you're Newcastle United, I don't think your reputation would stay down as a non-league team. I'm pretty sure it would jump up to at least a sort of championship club. People would know who you are if you had £1 billion in the bank. So I've given them a little push there. Not too much. I think it's around the level of League One from memory, maybe the Championship, but I don't think so. I think that's more League One. So it should help them attract some decent players, which you would expect them to do if they had that money, and just giving them a bit of a kickstart in terms of bringing people in. I've set their transfer budget at £500 million, but I'm pretty sure that will get revised down quite quickly. And I've given them the maximum £5 million a week wage budget, which I do not expect them to use for many, many years. Now, I have also turned on the front end sugar daddy. Those of you who've tried this in the past, this tends to get switched back to a non very quickly because the settings for whatever chairman is in place at the time are pretty much coded into the game. So even if you say that he is a front end sugar daddy in the in-game stats, that does eventually just get rolled back so that they become a non in line with whatever the underlying statistics are. And then as we went through, you'll see these facilities improve over time, 7, 5, 4, 4 and 3. So what we're hoping to see over time is a little bit like this past history for Maidstone United. We want to see them rising up the leagues pretty quickly. Today we'll probably jump straight ahead by about 10 years, see how they're getting on, and then we might even go a bit further in the future as well if progress is pretty slow. But let's jump ahead now and see how they're doing in 10 years' time. Well, we are now 10 years into the future. You can see I've made myself manager of Maidstone, so I'll have a little bit of a look at what they've got going on. But what we will do is just start by having a look at their squad schedule over the last few years. You can see here in the Vanarama South, what we're looking for here is just see if they win any trophies. They didn't do particularly well in the Cups that year, but a decent league run. And it did get them promoted in their very first season. So a good start there. Again, not a great FA Cup run, either of the trophies, but again, up through the playoffs, winning the playoff final from the National League to finally get that league football status. So straight into League 2 in just 2 seasons is a really big turnaround for the club. They do look like they've struggled a little bit here. A lot of draws. But they did actually make it to the playoffs, which makes me think you turn some of these draws into a win. Now, I'm pretty sure they'd have got promoted without needing to go through the playoffs, but they missed out on promotion through the playoffs there. The very next season, still down in League 2. Not doing too well in the Cups, but again making the playoffs. Gillingham this time beating them to the punch. The other competitions here, a little bit of a better start this season, which bodes well for them. Managed to get through to the FA Cup third round, where they beat Bristol Rovers before being smashed by Man City. But that 3-1 game would have given them a nice bit of cash, not that they need it. But playoffs defeated again. Can't get to that playoff final. So quite a few years now in League 2. And this time they do make the playoff final, but they are beaten by Tranmere Rovers 2-0. So overcoming Exeter, but not quite able to make that final step. Another decent FA Cup run, knocked out by Burton, will be a disappointment for them. But it looks like they had a pretty good season, no playoff, and they're in League 1. So Carabao Cup going out early, FA Cup out by Leeds in the third round, and then pretty poor second half of the season. They'd actually started out really, really well. So I imagine they missed out on promotion there just by falling apart at the end. A terrible start to the season, but it looks like it picked up pretty quickly. Papa John's Trophy quarter-final, they made it to the semis but beaten by the Rotherham. And then in the playoffs, beaten by Huddersfield, so no championship for them. And then into the final season of this 10-year run, you can see knocked out in the FA Cup there. Looks like they didn't do too well in League 1. Not dreadful though. But if we have a look at how last season went, you can see finishing up in 7th place, not quite able to get into those automatic promotion places, a good 14-15 points off being able to do that. So they've still got a way to go to really get up there. But if we have a look at their general information here, you can see that really rapid rise when they first got the money, and then a very steady holding their position in League 2, but not quite able to crack it until they did win the league in 27-28. And then another rapid rise. Look, they went up to 14th and then 4th, finishing in 7th place last season. So they're still really pushing it to get up the table. If we have a look at their club details, you can see reputation's about where I set it right at the start of the game. The club's attendance, the stadium has been extended. The finances, they've only spent about 200 billion or so, 200 million rather, not 200 billion, that would be extreme. But that money is still sitting in the bank there. Current transfer budget, 171 million. They still got £108,000 a week in the wage budget. The sugar daddy, like I said it would, has gone. But their facilities have ticked up a tiny amount. I think they've gone up about 1 point maybe. Not really going up very much at all there. So they're a little bit of a middling team at the moment. But if we have a look at their transfer history, this is where you'll see whether that money's really paying off. Now it does get a little bit difficult when you're in League 1, League 2, because they have all kinds of caps and spending limits, which really do hit you that financial fair play to make the teams more sustainable. But you can see 23-24, they managed to dish out £1 million, and then up to 1.4 million, very little going out the club, 1.6 million. 3.4 million really turning the taps on, and then 5.5, and then this I imagine League 1 territory where they are under a spending cap. One free transfer coming in, still balancing the books look that year, so not doing too well, and then 96k again really reined in. Nothing the 31-32 season, because that's the most recent one, so we're not quite there yet. But their squad doesn't look too bad. You look at the wages here, is always quite interesting. 17k to some players. I mean, it's not ridiculous. You can see where that 100 grand a week wage budget is going though. They're not far off maxing that out, but some of these players don't look too bad. Transfer value of some of them up to 2.4 million. I mean, I'm not sure it's the best money ever spent. 200 million to get you to this point. A lot of that would have gone out in tax, and it's not a very big squad either. They could do with maxing this out, but I imagine that they're probably struggling with financial fair play here. Maximum allowed, they can only spend another 7 grand a week. So even if they did go out and splash some cash, they're not going to do that well. A little bit of transfer debt for some reason, no idea why. Nothing coming in terms of sponsorship. Projected to lose money every year, but if we look at their income, we can imagine where most of their income's coming from, and it's 7 million a year in interest, which is really going to help them, to be fair. I mean, if they could get more in gate receipts, season tickets, that would help. TV revenue would be good as well, but you need to get promoted for that, really. But 7 million from interest is their main source of income. They don't make that much money, 12 million over a year last season, so 7 million of that came from interest on their 700 million in the bank. So that's where the money's coming in. Last season they did spend 30 million, so their FFP is going to be a bit tricky, but that's why the salary cap is there. They can't do too much more with that salary cap, and hopefully they will be able to spend the money wisely and get promoted soon. But what we will do is go another 5 years into the future and see if they've managed to make it up into, hopefully, the Premier League. Well, we are now 5 more years into the future. We're going to see how they're getting on just a few years later. You can see another season down in League One. Not doing too badly at the end, but they weren't great off the bat. This is just gone the wrong way around here, but the next season, not much luck in the trophies, going out in the quarter-final of the Papa John Trophy. They did make the playoffs, though. They beat Peterborough 4-1, 2-1 return, and then a 3-2 victory. Managed to avoid a late goal going in as they saw off Shrewsbury 3-2 to finally make it up into the Championship. And this is where the taps really can be turned on. Not crazy amounts, but it's a significant jump from their League One days. And it will take a little bit of time to build up to that full strength. So a bit of a middling season their first time out, and then they really struggled the next season. First half of it, nice little winning run towards the end helped them out. A lot of victories late on, but not quite enough to get them into the playoffs. Next season again, bit of a wobble here at the start, not doing too well and failing to make the playoffs again. And that takes you up to the most recent season, where they still have not managed to make it up into the Premier League. If we just have a look at this table over the last few seasons, you can see last season finishing in 7th place. They are so close there, 4 points off the playoffs and being able to really compete with teams trying to make it into the Premier League. 9th the year before that, 14th, and then that was their first season up in the Championship. But if we just have a look at how they did up through the playoffs, finishing in 5th place, so still a way off Bolton and Sunderland at the top there, but they did manage to make it up in the end. You can see as well that their capacity now up to 8,200. Their season ticket price has gone up quite a bit as well. But this little graph is showing steady progress up. We're now nearly 15 years on, or we are 15 years on, from when we first gave them the money. And they are now coming up. Their reputation has gone up a little bit as well. Their facilities look like they're improving. We can have a quick check of that in here. Reputation's gone up to 6,500. Finances have jumped up to 1 billion again. Now, I haven't done that, so I'm interested to know why that's happened. Transfer budget 234 million. What has happened? Look at that. The money's there, and then suddenly, boop, up to 600, up again to 955 million. What has caused that to happen? We've got something here. What's the blue? Sponsorship. £380 million 1 year sponsorship? Where's that come from? What on earth is that? Where has that come from? Where have they got a £383 million sponsorship deal? I've not done that. That's come out of nowhere. Is that because, do they have a sugar daddy at the moment? No, they don't even have a sugar daddy. It must be a sugar daddy thing. I must have switched the sugar daddy back on. I don't remember doing that. Or maybe they got a new owner in. That is a very strange one. I just want to have a look at their landmarks here. So that was a couple of years ago. So yeah, someone withdraws their funding. So I must have upgraded him to a sugar daddy chairman. And that's where the little workaround for the sugar daddies, which if you've seen the news around Newcastle, it's when they get sponsors to come in and give a £300 million deal for something that costs £2 million. That must have been what happened, because you see they scaled down funding a couple of times. So I must have turned that on without remembering that I had. So they've made at least it's good to know that that sugar daddy system works. I mean, that's a hell of a cash injection without me having to top up their income. getting them back up to nearly £1 billion in cash, which is going to really help them get a push up into the Premier League. So a lot to look at there. Transfer history over the last few years. This is where we left off. 110k spent, nearly £1 million spent. And then when they get up into the Championship, suddenly £25 million spent without anybody leaving. 14.25 million on a player from Birmingham. Quite a big chunk of cash. Next season, £53 million signing players from Southampton, West Brom, Bournemouth. Big transfer fees going out there. Just 8 million the next year with a lot of players going out. That's the FFP kicking in again. But it doesn't stop them the next year from spending £93 million, nearly 30 million on this guy from Watford. I mean, he looks pretty good. Great pace on him for a 28-year-old. So they spent a lot of money on him. And then more recently, they've already spent 6 million bringing people in. You can see here that the transfer values getting right up there. Adam Rodriguez looks like an absolute steal already, up at nearly 50 million. A few players at 20-ish million, a few in the teens there, and then some other players lower down. But let's have a look at that contract information, and you can see 110,000 a week to Regan Taylor, who's been with them a long time. I don't know why he's on 110 grand a week. When he joined them down in League One, he was with them joined them in League Two for £2 million, and he's now their highest paid player. He's got a damn good agent to be negotiating pay rises like that. But a few other players up there on very, very good salaries. Club still looking to pass FFP at the moment. No major issues there. I mean, they're allowed a huge loss. Or allowed to spend a huge amount of money because of those commercial contracts coming in and giving them that income. But you can see where the wage budget absolutely shot up and has stayed pretty consistent ever since at 1.6 million a week. It shot up from just down at about £500,000 as soon as they got promoted. You can always see when they get promoted. This is the effect of financial fair play in the game. So this is a very different experiment to what it used to be. When I first started doing this, before FFP was really a thing. So quite a lot has changed there. I don't think much has changed by the way of their facilities. Those are pretty much the same as they were. Same stadium, but a bit bigger. Yeah, training and youth have got better, to be fair. They have got better. I don't know if they're looking to move to a new stadium. It doesn't look like it. Oh no, they are searching for a site for a 17,500 seat stadium. So if they do make it in the Premier League, that will obviously help them out. We're hoping they'll make it into Europe even, because they're on the door, having finished quite high up. Just look at their club info here for what they've done the last few years, finishing 14th, 9th and then 7th. Now they've got £1 billion again. They really could push on into Europe with that amount of money available and a lot of money to spend as well in financial fair play. So that is a reason to stick around for part 2 of this experiment, which will be coming out tomorrow. Do drop a like down below if you enjoyed the first part of this. The second part will be the final part. I'm not going to stretch this into 5 videos. This is just going to be a couple of quick videos seeing how this team gets on. So do hit that subscribe button if you'd like to see that, and let me know for ideas for experiments that you've got down in the comments. But until next time, see ya.